right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the June 25th Board of Selectmen meeting. If you would please join me for a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I will take a motion to approve the meetings from the June 11th Select Board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, votes? All in favor? Thank you. Item 4 is the public forum, so this is an opportunity for, what?
More minutes.
What's that?
Don't
No,
we have-
I had June 11th.
25th.
What?
Oh my God.
You okay, Dave?
We-
Yes, I'm fine.
we
Oh,
do-
I'm looking at the agenda, sorry. never
Yes,
mind.
we are going to look at the June 16th ones next
Okay.
meeting.
Okay, so this is the public forum. It's an opportunity. You okay there,
Yeah, I'm
Dave?
fine.
This is an opportunity for anyone to address the board for anything that's not on the agenda. Anyone online, Dave?
No hands raised.
Okay, seeing none, we are moving on. Okay, so we are going to open the public hearing to consider the application for John Green, DBA Langsford Road, Lobster and Fish House. So the hearing is open, the public hearing is open. I'll take any comments from the public on Mr. Green's vitulers license. Would you like to speak, Mr. Green?
Sure.
Hi, Alan. John Green here, owner of Langsford Road Lobster and Fish House for the last 33 years. It was brought to my attention this spring that I didn't have a victualer's license, which I guess I didn't really realize I needed one. If I did, I probably would have got it 30-some-odd years ago before this process got this far. But anyway, so here I am asking you, after all these years, do I need one? If I do need one, to issue me one. I've been doing the same thing I've been doing. I've just recently semi-retired and have scaled that business way back to part-time, limited menus, limited seafood. One reason I'm still doing it is because of the non-conforming use. If I don't do it, I understand that I will lose my non-conforming use. So until it is sold or until I, whatever,
Change your
I'm
mind.
selling,
You might change your mind, you may want to open up again full-time.
I'm still working part-time just to keep, mainly to keep myself a little occupied and keep the non-conforming use so it's so it doesn't go away. So I was suggested that somebody, I think it was Galen or Greg, suggested I get a victualer's license so they know I'm still in business. So I did send them paperwork this year showing I did work last year, so.
Right.
That about sums it up. I've been inspected by the Agriculture Department every single year and passed and all that, so
Okay,
that about sums it up. I'm just,
all right. That's good, thank you, John. So is anyone from the public, any comments from public in-house or online?
No hands raised.
Okay, seeing none, I am closing the public hearing, and I will bring to the board's attention that the staff has reviewed this license and gave their approval. So I'll take a motion from a board member.
Make a motion to approve victuals license for John Green, DBA Langsford Road Lobster and Fish House.
Second.
All those, any discussion? All in favor? Okay. Unanimous.
thanks, guys.
Thank you, thanks. All right, next on the agenda is consider the land use ordinance change regarding the zoning board of appeals and stormwater regulation for the November ballot. In our packet, I think Galen's going to come up and talk us through this, but so some background here. We had a few meetings with a joint, for the public's awareness, we had joint discussion meetings between GPC, the Growth Planning Committee, and the Select Board with some consultants from the state of Maine to walk us through what other towns are doing, what it means to us. And so we've jointly been working, and in front of us is some of the language that the GPC committee has brought forward for the board's consideration.
Yep. Good evening, Board. So yes, tonight we have basically two buckets, if you think of it that way, for provisions that we're amending into the land use ordinance. The first one I'd like to discuss is the zoning board request. So the zoning board of appeals, they meet very infrequently, but we've noticed that there is an uptick in people that are applying for home occupation licenses with the board. And it is sort of a strange process that the town has where we have these conditional uses that are in the zoning board of appeals purview, but there's really no uniform process and performance standards like there is in the planning board process. And so what the ZBA requested is, could we transfer those conditional uses to either the planning board if it doesn't generate traffic for a home occupation? If it generates traffic, it'll go to the planning board. And then if it doesn't, it would go administered through the code enforcement officer. And then there is the child care centers and then animal husbandry, which were it was a conditional use in ZBA. They would get moved over to the planning board. So that's the breakdown of the ZBA changes. They are also requesting, and it's something we're going to ask the town solicitor for her opinion on, is changing the requirement for voting for the zoning board of appeals. And so what this is going to do is, instead of it being you need to have a quorum present for a meeting, they would like it to be in a majority of the quorum present to approve a project. And this is in the case that we don't have all of our members present. It gives them flexibility to approve an application and not continue it for another meeting until they get a quorum of members voting all for the same motion. So that's a little bit different, but there's a conflict in section 522 of your administrative code. So we're just going to clarify that with the town solicitor before it goes to the voters. So that's the first bucket for zoning board of appeals. Is there any questions on that particular
Just a
section?
clarification, there are only 5 members on the board, right?
There's 7.
7?
Yes.
All righty.
Yeah.
So now this would allow so there would normally have to be, what, 4?
Affirmative. Yep. So
Yeah.
instead it would be 3.
Exactly, so
Yeah.
it's not a huge difference. We're
No.
talking, yeah.
No. But we'll double check with the town attorney on that one because we know there is a
Yeah.
little bit of a conflict, just to get that addressed.
And also the planning board is in agreement and willing and believes this is a good idea, right?
Yes,
Otherwise
they
you
already
wouldn't
have a
be
uniform
presenting.
process.
Good,
Yeah.
good, yeah.
Yeah.
So we had this discussion in our joint session the last time with GPC, and GPC also weighed in with their approval. Galen was asking for any feedback. I think the last time we gave him a thumbs up. Has anyone changed their mind? Okay. So I think we
This part
would,
was all fun.
Yeah.
yeah, so we would move forward with this section for,
Okay.
okay.
And so this next section is our stormwater section. And so this is the one where, as Chairman Gilbert said, we met with the GPC, we had a joint meeting with Acorn Engineering. We hashed out what other towns are doing and what can be done. We also received great feedback from the board on what you'd like to see potentially changed, and had the GPC take a look at it. So 2 areas that I'd like to focus on in particular. One being there was a discussion about how this could be too widespread for the town, so try to narrow the focus. And so we excluded the farm and forest zone where they have 3 acres or more for land-wise. And so that reduced the scope of where we're focusing the stormwater standards moving forward. That was one of the requests that was made. The other one that I wanted to note was the 50-foot buffer requirement for the farm and forest section. And so that is in your ordinance as well. We did not have a consensus, we didn't have a unanimous agreement from the GPC, but we did address a lot of the concerns on what about a lot that has already a building on it that wants to do an addition. There's no other alternative placement. You want to, do an extension of a garage. We did put language in there that allowed for, if there's no reasonable alternative, that you can have the flexibility to cut in the 50-foot buffer in the farm and forest zone. So that was the flexibility that we added for that provision. Is there any particular questions from the board that?
There's
Yep.
one thing about I'm not happy with, I don't agree with the 50-foot buffer. I think that's more like a land grab more than anything else, and I just don't, I'm not happy with that. Just saying. I don't know how else does the board feel about any of that?
I think it becomes more intrusive and prohibitive the larger the lots are, too, right? Because you're going to have to run 50 feet of buffer along the entire perimeter of the lot. So you're going to be taking more square footage the bigger the lot goes. I agree with Alan. I don't see what this does. I mean, we're not talking about paving it.
Well, do I understand then I would think the rationale would be if you had two lots where the buildings, for some reason, were close enough to each other on the edges of these 3-acre lots, that you would want to have 100 feet between them to try to have some place for the stormwater to go when it's running off of the buildings.
Right.
I mean, 50 feet is not a whole lot when you're talking a three. Yeah, it's land, but it's just, the idea, as I understand it, is that when you have a building, you need to have that area so that, again, if two are juxtaposed, you've got sufficient space between them to allow for stormwater runoff. To me, it makes a lot of sense.
Right, and currently in our subdivision regulations right now, we have developments that are taking place out in the rural area, the farm and forest zone, and they are respecting those building envelope clearances. It's not prohibiting them from doing a development in the farm and forest zone, and they do keep a non-disturbance section around there, so it's.
If you had a 3-acre lot, what percentage of lot would become affected by the 50-foot buffer along all of the border of the lot?
I think you'd have close to over 2 acres that you could just clear cut the whole entire thing.
So that's a third, almost. So you're going to take away, in essence, a third of a lot, if that's what I heard you. I think that's pretty draconian myself.
So Galen, so I think the problem here is, what is the definition of development? So what does development mean? Does it mean that I've split and I've got one additional house on my 3 acres, or am I got approval for a development in farm and forest?
So our definition for development is a change in land use involving alteration of land, water, vegetation, and addition or alteration of structures or other construction not naturally occurring. It's pretty broad.
So if I had a home on 3 acres and I wanted to put an ADU on, do I have to follow the 50-foot buffer?
Yes, if you're in that, well, if you're triggering that requirement for the 800 square feet, that's where that would
Yeah.
apply. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, so it's not like, so I think when I listened to the GPC discussion, it was more about, my interpretation of what I heard the committee saying, it was more about, a larger development going in, keeping a 50-foot buffer between them and the road, and like John was saying, between homes. But this can go down to the way I understand how it's written and how people could interpret it. This goes down to the minutia of a 3-acre lot, and that's, I think, where, like, if it's truly for large developments, say, I don't know, I'm just for giggles sake, 20 acres or more, and you're trying to preserve that, I think that's different than what I hear Joe and Alan saying, that this would be for a 3-acre, it applies to a 3-acre, somebody putting an ADU on. And I think that's where we're potentially having that thought of a land grab. What do you think, David?
I don't know if I do recall, Galen, during this, that I appreciate that we've taken farm and forest out of it from the conversation, but there was also a conversation about that the field that maybe 800 square feet was too small. You do have lots within, not in farm and forest, that are 3 acres, and that 800 square feet, really, to make them come into a stormwater management plan, wasn't gonna solve the problem. So that's just one, I'm gonna have to go back and look at that meeting again to see that issue. My only other concern on the 50 acres is as LD 1829 comes into fruition, are we causing a problem by having these 50-foot buffers if that goes into a certain area?
No, I don't think you're gonna have a problem with, the LD 2173 because, as we discussed at the last meeting with the state, our 3-acre minimums are going to stay in place out in the farm and forest zone.
I'm talking outside, I'm talking,
Yeah.
taking farm and forest out of it. Now we're into, free enterprise and everything else. This is gonna apply there.
No,
No?
no, it only applies to the farm and
Farm and
forest.
forest.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's why
So-
we put the provision. Because we were concerned about
I
that, that's.
still think
yeah.
I need to go back and look at that meeting again, just to see what everyone had to say.
Well, I think that's what we're informing ourselves we need to do, so that's good. We'll take a
Yeah.
look at that.
Well, so just to be clear, when we had the joint meeting, we talked, it was, remember, we had the consultant in here, and we talked all about water runoff. The 50-foot buffer wasn't brought up in that. We talked more about the road drainage, that type of stuff, and then we spent a lot of time about the size of that. So what I think I'm hearing, Galen, is a review of the 800 square feet. What is there any more comments from the rest of the board on that?
The only other question I have, Galen, is, and it doesn't, where is the driveway issue falling under? Is this, it's not in the stormwater, correct?
It's
Yes,
right here.
it's in the road standards, so it's
Which is-
under, Article 240,
So can we
6.14.
speak about, well, we'll deal with the 50-foot first.
Yep.
Okay.
Do you want to do the 50-foot first or driveway? What,
What's that?
do you want me to go over the driveway provision?
Sure.
We're done with the buffer? Okay. So the provision on driveways, so as we discussed with the GPC and Acorn, there was a conversation about how driveways get evolved into eventually roads. And there's issues that regard setbacks with that moving forward when people try to break lots off and add more dwellings to utilize a driveway. So basically, a driveway can service 2 dwellings at present, but once it gets to 3 dwellings, it starts to become a road, which requires planning board approval. And so what this provision is sort of addressing is we are trying to be proactive in our planning efforts, that when someone's placing a driveway, especially a longer driveway, that could potentially allow for a future lot split, especially with 2173, they're placing it in a way that it will make sense for future lot splits. It's not going to cause nonconformity moving forward. So it's a more of a consumer protection provision that we're looking to make changes here. So they still have to meet the same standards. The driveway standards haven't changed. It's just who reviews it. Normally, it was the code enforcement officer that approved driveways. Now, if it's over 100 feet, it would go to the planning board for their review, under site plan review.
So is this something that, again, it would go to like a lot size? So for example, if a lot size is specifically for a single family, it wouldn't trip this 100-foot. Like you could have 100-foot on a single family because you're really not going to get anything more on that lot. But if you get to a certain lot size that is large enough to then follow suit with a second and third dwelling, that's the lot that you really want to have this go through the planning board.
So it doesn't necessarily say that, like a certain lot size requirement. It is a town-wide requirement, so it would apply to any new driveway that's being proposed that's over 100 feet. And again, it's part of our effort of trying to address these evolution of roads that take place when people add more dwellings. You can either add density by adding more dwellings to a lot, or you're gonna be breaking lot splits as well and creating new lots that way that
Right.
need to service that road.
But to Mary Beth's question, is this, you have a lot in free enterprise?
Yep.
It's big enough for a single-family home, that's all you're planning on putting on there, but you're gonna have a 150-foot driveway because you're gonna set it back a little bit.
Yep.
Is this now gonna require anyone doing that to bring their single-family home before the planning board to deal with driveways?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's in front of the planning board, but not, so that the planning board could say, gee, you may in the future break this up and therefore we won't allow you to have a driveway? I don't understand, is that,
Yeah, so what happens normally is people apply for a building permit, and they have, hey, here's my road, my driveway that I'm gonna put on my property, here's my house placement, it can be 200 feet,
Sure.
300 feet, whatever it is.
Sure.
And they place it there, and then over time, they say, you know what, I wanna, in the front of my property, I'm gonna break that off now and make it another.
got it,
And then
got
another.
it. That could happen. So what does planning board say? It says you have to, you really shouldn't, they won't allow you to put it, perhaps, hypothetically, they wouldn't allow you to put a driveway, they would insist you put a road?
They would insist that you would place the driveway, but we're making sure that that driveway placement is not gonna cause nonconformity issues for neighboring lots or for that lot.
If you move it to a road, if you change it to a
Correct.
road.
Correct.
So it's just saying, it's allowing the possibility, it's not gonna force you to put in a road, it's just going to force the placement to be such that it could be converted to a road
Yes.
and still meet the standard.
Correct.
So is there a way, so I think we're trying to address what you had brought up in that joint meeting, that larger road that then services a lot more. Because we have had town issues
Sure.
with that, right? So we do recognize that that's an issue. But I feel like, is there a way to do the wording such that we actually capture that set of the problem? It feels like we're capturing this subset, and we're gonna send these subsets that really don't matter, that
Yeah,
really are
yeah.
gonna have a very low
Yeah.
probability of
Of
zero.
going
And we
into-
really wanna get the grab, and we really don't want a lot going to the planning board. So can we somehow, because it's good, right? Because we do know that I
Right,
mean, we've
it's a
talked
problem.
about the
It's an
serious
issue.
problem.
Yeah, it's an issue.
About the larger ones. So is there a way that we could somehow,
Of course, with LD, the thing is that a lot, an acre now can be broken into several.
Well,
And that's,
I'm trying to make, maybe to Mary Beth, if there's some way we could word this better.
Yeah.
I don't want to require someone who's building a single-family home and they're gonna set it back 200 feet from the road, so they're gonna need a 200-foot driveway to get to the garage, that we're gonna make them come to the planning board for site plan review for their driveway. Other than that, they'd have no reason to come to the planning board. So I'm not trying to get more people to have to come to the planning board and possibly come up with, just go through that whole process.
Yeah.
It's
And
a
a lot more-
cumbersome process for,
And a
Yeah,
lot more cost.
yeah.
Yeah, if the board is agreeable to it, I can certainly look at adding language into that subsection A or B that gives the code enforcement officer that authority. But I know historically, in our town, the residents very much are concerned about where placement is for driveways and roads and when it comes to those things. So that's why the language was drafted this way. But if you're giving me feedback that you'd like changes, I can certainly make those and bring them to you.
I would like to see that. Does
Yeah.
it?
Joe, did you?
I have just one question, and it's going back to the 50-foot buffer. Just back of the envelope math here, on a 3-acre lot, all sizes, squares, circles, 2-on-1 rectangles, it almost eats up half of the lot. A 50-acre buffer along the perimeter of a lot is between 1.47 and 5.4 acres. I don't think that's a good thing.
And again, I think that's where we're sort of in the same thing. I think both, for that one, you were really going for, if I go back again to what I said previously, you're going back to the discussions where there's the large developments going into the rural areas, and you were trying to create, to John's point, some buffer in between for drainage, but we're capturing the lower part of the population. We're capturing a 3-acre lot. So I think that's where the board is having issues with both of these. So,
well, could you say something like if development were to occur in one lot and it encroached, it went into a 50-foot, it got within 50 foot of the boundary line, that would set a requirement if somebody on the juxtaposed lot wanted to build, they'd have to maintain the 100 feet or something? I mean, is there a way we could word it so that we can get the result we want without tying up half the area, just in a blanket way of tying it up? Because that's really what we're concerned about, right? Yeah, so maybe there's a way to look at that.
Yeah, so if you're looking for, I think what I'm hearing from the board, and the board can comment, what I'm hearing from the board is that section E is not ready to go live yet. I think if we can get some different language around the 100-foot driveway, go ahead, Alan.
3 acres is really not that much of the land. Now, I could understand if it was 20 acres or
Yeah.
something like that. I get that, but I just think, I just hate to see people lose land, not being able to be used.
I think we're in agreement, but we need a way to get to the end point as well, so that's.
Yeah, I think if we go back and really look at what we're trying to solve, right? So
Exactly.
this, again, this goes back, I think both of them go back to the premise of a larger development in rural area. One, to make sure that a driveway can become a road. Two, to make sure that in a larger development, that we're not then flooding out neighbors, right? So that was, I think that's the premise. So I think both those sections need a little bit of work to drive the language back to the intent of what we were looking for. Do you guys agree with that or no?
Is this buildable area or is area? So you have a 3-acre lot. Now, what if only a quarter acre, or half an acre was buildable? How big is that lot?
So when
Is
you
it a
say,
half
when you say
acre?
it's buildable, you mean?
It doesn't have steep, rock, there isn't a wet, a vernal pool on half the property, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep. So you have to have 3 acres of upland area in order to be considered developable land.
All right.
So there's
All
some 3-acre properties that may not be buildable because they don't
Good.
have
That's
it,
what I
unless
said.
they're a lot of record, but we have a lot of carves out
I was
for that.
worried that again, if you're forcing it into smaller areas, then it becomes important to have that offset.
Right.
There's just a lot of stuff going on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay, so I think, let's go back. The easy one was what the
ZBA.
the ZBA, so that was an easy peasy one for us. I think you got some guidance about the driveway. You might even want to consider length of that, if that helps out the discussion. Did you want any more about the 800 square feet?
Not at the moment, I need to go back and look at that.
Okay, so Dave's going to go back and look at the discussion around the 800 square feet. I think E is sort of, I think E, you heard some strong positions back from the board, so that needs, either it's not going to make the trip this time, or we've got to get it back up to the initial intent. Is there any other part of this that we need to look at, Galen?
Then the last section is 415. That's on page 14 of the document. It starts. That's basically the subdivision language. So this is going to mirror your subdivision language in the performance standards to make it talk to each other. So that's our amendment changes overall.
Yeah, so section 15, page 14, talks about the discharge quality peak. That goes back to the state's language, Galen, right?
That language is the same language that we're using for Article 6 for that new performance standards. So
Okay.
they're reflecting each other.
Okay.
Yep. Just tightening that up, yep.
Any comments from the board on these 2 pages?
Not at the moment.
Not for me.
No,
Okay.
Good.
no.
Thank you.
Thanks, Galen.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Our next item on the agenda is consider the draft language changes regarding mass gathering ordinance. So I'm going to take 1 minute to just refresh the board and the public here about what we did and where we are, where we're going. So we issued a non-binding ballot on the last June election, and that was to consider if the board should make any types of changes to the current 1986 ordinance for recognizing mass gatherings and who funds the municipalities for them. So the last meeting of our board met, the full board gave, we had a unanimous discussion or a decision about, to go after some draft language on how we interpreted the results. Tonight, we're bringing forward the draft language for the board to review, and also the public. So what I'd like to do is just really quickly do one quick addition that came forward that we'd like to consider, and we'll talk about it when we get to the board part. But we want to also, in addition to the one tree lighting, add the Cape Porpoise tree lighting into that also, that language, so that we'll be considering that as we talk forward. The other thing is, there's been a couple things brought forward to a couple different board members, including myself, was that I just wanted to make sure that we have very clear clarification to the public, is that there has been no intent, and is there no intent by this board or the town to not grant the license to allow Prelude for the 2 current weeks, or for the 2 current weekends. So that's, that's not on the table for discussion, nor has it ever been on the table for discussion. I'm going to ask for anyone in the public that would like to, before I get input from the board, we'd like to hear from public if you want to make any comments about the draft language that you've seen. And if you want to speak, if you can please keep it to 3 minutes, we'd appreciate it. And then after that, I'm going to open it up so that we can have a board discussion and see where we want to go from here.
Is it on the agenda, or is it only the meeting?
Well, it was in
Is
the
there draft
packet.
over there?
No.
Oh.
No, it's not.
Sorry.
To review it. No. Is there a way to
Okay.
review it?
Can we put the language up on the screen?
Yeah.
Yep, we'll put the language up on the screen.
Good. Dave?
I don't have it.
It's in the packet.
This will take a few minutes.
Yep.
Coming. But are you opening the floor then if people wish to speak?
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
open
mean,
the
it's
floor.
open.
People want to
and
see
Anybody
the,
wants to talk?
yeah, if anybody wants to talk, or anybody online wants to talk, but Dave's pulling up the language
Yeah,
as we wait.
please. Hi.
Hi, Joe O'Connor, Kennebunkport. I love Kennebunkport. I love Prelude. I love that our taxes are low, Lori. And I really want to tell you guys, thank you for doing a great job. It's really hard what you do. What has happened here with an ordinance that we knew nothing of hasn't been handled well. But we can't put the toothpaste back in the tube right now. We can't. We can only move forward. And I remember very clearly John saying on the March 26th meeting, which is videotaped, that on behalf of the selectmen, the select board was going to take the votes seriously and move forward with the decision that the voters made.
If it was the decision, certainly take the sentiment that was expressed by the voters and move forward, absolutely.
Correct. So when you look at all the statistics, not a landslide, but a very good turnout, not a landslide, but by 79 votes, C, won the sentiment of the advisory question, the non-binding advisory, followed by A, which was no funding at all, and then 22% was ostensibly what the board is proposing with this new language. So what I find befuddling is that now that the voters have spoken on a non-binding question, that the board is putting up language for the lowest percentage of the voters' opinions, their feedback, the advisory question that you put forth. So that's what I find troubling to me, because if you just put in a bucket B and C, you've got a population that was okay paying something, but C won the vote. So the fact that there's language up here that's proposed, that's going with the less feedback, that's what they wanted, 22%. That troubles me. It also troubles me that there's Prelude 1 and Prelude 2, where I think Tina's going to bring up information that says that there was, for most of Prelude, there was always a 10-day Prelude. There wasn't a Prelude 1 and Prelude 2. It's this. I do, on an upbeat note, want to thank you, because in this draft language, this board heard loud and clear that this is a community event and not a commercial event. So I applaud you, because that is what the language is that you're proposing. And that's what we heard on the March 26th, that this is a community event and not a commercial event.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we're just
Thank
taking
you. Thank you
comments
very
right
much.
now, and then we'll discuss.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Sure.
Good evening. Russ Grady, Kennebunkport. I'll try not to be redundant with a few of the things that Joe mentioned, but
Hey, Russ, could you bring the mic
yeah,
up?
I'll put it up. I'll put it back down. I'm done. Is this better?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I guess I'll mention, the question 2 piece. I too, I guess I wanted to interpret it a different way. And it seems to me that the board intended to interpret it the way it was presented in March. 63% of the people voted to fund something. We put 3 questions out to the public, and when you do that, you're almost guaranteed a situation where you're not going to get a majority, and you'll get a plurality at best, and the plurality was question C. I mean, I went through the whole process, and I watched June 11, I'm here. I'm left kind of wondering, what did we go through all of that for? If at the end of that vote, we find ourselves in a position, and I'm just stating fact, this isn't personal, that in March, the recommendation, Mary Beth, was to fund one weekend. And John, I believe, you seconded, and you were both, vocally behind that option. And here we find ourselves where you're authoring a draft to be voted on. That is exactly what you talked about in March, and we all turned out to vote, and bought signs and did a bunch of stuff. So anyhow, frustrating, but I do respect your ability to interpret. And thank you, Mary Beth, for your comments about Prelude, in the 2 weeks of Prelude. My concern back then when I commented through Zoom was that the chief of police is the issuing authority for the mass gathering permit, and it specifically states that all permits shall be issued, approved with conditions, or disapproved by the chief of police or chief's representative after consultation with the town manager, code enforcement, and any other town officials, your town officials. I was left after March and even today a little bit skeptical that that permit could get submitted, and someone might say, we don't believe it should be 2 weeks long. We, the board, disagree, and maybe the chief goes in that direction. I was going to ask you if this board supports 2 weeks. I believe you said that. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
So anyhow, like Joe said, thank you for what you're doing. You've had a rough go. And hopefully things will get better in the future. I'll move on to a new topic in a week or two. But it's just a little frustrating, that's all.
Yep, thank you, Russ. Anyone else?
Oh, you didn't move the
Gee,
mic
Russ.
down, Russ.
I know, he's like
Make
10
him
feet.
do it again.
He's like 10 feet tall. Good thing I have taller shoes on.
It's not 100 feet.
Tina Hewitt-Gordon, the president of KBA. Normally, I don't read from a script, but I'm going to because I want to make sure that I'm making all my points, and I may be a little bit redundant, but I think this warrants some redundancy. On behalf of KBA, I'd like to express our disappointment that the board spoke about Prelude at the last meeting and decided to ignore the wish of the voters, more of whom voted for option C, yet chose a different option. While this was a non-binding vote, this board said many times that they wanted to hear from the voters, and the community feedback regarding support for Christmas Prelude reflected a desire by many residents to maintain the event's long-standing support structure. Of the responses received, 759 participants, 41%, I think we'll all memorize these numbers by the end of tonight, supported funding Prelude at the same level as in previous years. While 680 participants, which is 37%, supported no funding, and 411 participants, 22%, supported funding at 1/2 of previous levels for Prelude 1 only. While options clearly varied, the largest percentage of respondents favored maintaining support at historical levels, ignoring their wishes, feels a little breach of trust. Further, the drafted new ordinance doesn't reflect the will of the voters and didn't include any input or discussion with KBA. We're disappointed, particularly given our longstanding role in organizing and supporting Christmas Prelude in partnership with the town. KBA is an entirely volunteer-run organization. Unlike many events to the magnitude of Prelude, it has no paid staff, and the planning, coordination, and management of Christmas Prelude are carried out by volunteers who donate their time and expertise. Feedback from our board and members reflects the belief that any decision regarding the future of Prelude should be made thoughtfully and with the meaningful input from the businesses, residents, community partners, and taxpayers who have helped make this event successful for more than 44 years. We want to thank the board for recognizing that Prelude is a community event, thank you, Joe, which is reflected in the draft language. However, we have grave concerns about the town delineating between one weekend of Christmas Prelude and the other. Prelude is a 10-day event, and deciding that only 3 days of that event themselves are a community event apart from the others not only seems arbitrary, but has serious safety implications if people migrate from the second weekend to the first. Ironically, back in 2009, KBA was asked by the town to create events on the second weekend to aid in alleviating the first weekend congestion to address some safety concerns. As we evaluate, and I say we, meaning the board and our members, and its potential impact, several options remain and could be considered. One, we want to work collaboratively with the town to preserve Christmas Prelude as a 10-day community event, consistent with the model that's been existed for more than 4 decades. KBA believes that any future framework should recognize and support the full duration of the event rather than limiting town support to only the first weekend. We'd be open to discussing reasonable cost-sharing arrangements for the second weekend at community event rates rather than the per diem rates. Option 2, we also are thinking that we would like to seek some amendments to the ordinance that codify a transparent mass gathering permit procedure and standards to include defining timelines for application submission, town review, requests for additional information, permit approval or denial, and any appeals process. Clear procedural deadlines would provide fairness, accountability, and adequate planning for both the applicants and the town. Another option is that we could develop and submit an alternative ordinance through the referendum process for consideration by the Kennebunkport voters in November, allowing the community to directly determine how Christmas Prelude should be classified and supported moving forward. Our preference remains to engage in a collaborative dialogue with the town leadership and community stakeholders to identify a path forward that preserves the spirit, economic benefits, and community partnerships that have defined Christmas Prelude for generations. KBA remains committed to acting in the best interests of our members, the community, and the long-term success of Christmas Prelude. We remain hopeful that a collaborative solution can be reached that honors both the community's wishes and the event's 44-year legacy. Thank you.
Thanks, Dana. Anyone else wish to speak? April?
Can I ask a question?
April's going to speak.
Oh, of Tina.
What?
Is that okay, forget about it.
No, go ahead.
I'm confused. Why is the classification as a community event versus a commercial event of any weight to the Prelude?
Because currently, the way that the finances, and Lori can, help speak to some of this in case I'm using the incorrect terminology. At this moment in time, we receive some support, obviously, from the town by providing the police, the fire, and the public works. Those amounts are paid at the regular salaried amount. And obviously, what we're discussing here is switching over to a per diem cost. So we understand that. We want our people to be able to make this extra money. We've offered to pay that. That's not the issue. The issue, if it gets deemed a non-community event, is we also receive support from Kennebunk. And so if they look, I'm not saying that this is what they were going to do, but this is definitely one of those sort of domino effects that can happen, that they could look at it and say, well, if Kennebunkport's doing it, why should we be offering this level of support? So we are now going to be charging KBA for all of the charges that, again, we've partnered with that town for years. In addition, York County Emergency Management Services has provided resources to us at a complimentary level. Last year, Lori was able to provide a document that showed the full level of support that they gave to Prelude for last year, which equaled about $23,000. So by removing the community event delineation, takes and affords some a domino effect financially, that we look at this and you say, okay, it's an extra $17,000, it's an extra $35,000, whatever number you're looking at for Kennebunkport. Now let's look what's going to happen in Kennebunk and what's going to happen into York County Emergency Management Services, and that number becomes much greater. Do I think we can raise? Let me just finish, Joe. Sorry.
Sure.
Do I think we can raise the money for this year? Sure. Do I think it's sustainable moving forward? I don't think that is.
And what I'm confused about, and again, I thought the current statute, because you say remove the community event status. No, remove, you said switch from community event to not make it a community.
No, the other way around. We want it to continue to be a community event.
Right, but under the current statute, it's defined as a commercial event, right?
Right, so when you're so correct, we want to be able to make sure that the historical support that we've received is how it's continued.
But what I don't understand, and I'm not going to belabor it because it's obviously a me problem, is it's been a commercial event according to the statute since 1986.
But that's never how it's been treated.
Well, it was in the beginning, treated that way. But I think, so I think part of this is...
I mean, if it's a commercial statute as of now, a commercial event as of now, then we're not changing anything if it remained a commercial event. It would still be a commercial event, but instead of paying...
But that's not how it's been treated, Joe, and that's part of that's been part of the issue here, is the interpretation that that ordinance was never enforced.
So can I boil it down because I think we're getting caught up in language. So if I listen to what Tina just said, my interpretation is go away from community commercial, that's irrelevant. I think the salient point is the town's ponying up money, and if we don't, then other towns might follow suit. To me, it's irrelevant on whether we call it a shoe or a hat. It's just, are we giving services for free? And the answer is we have been under ordinance right now, we can no longer do. So I think the point is, so this is public, right? So this has been in the media. So Kennebunk knows, York knows. Have they given you any indication? Because this is, like, the ordinance is nothing.
Not officially.
So have they...
Nothing has been official, but we've had some back conversations.
Are they looking to do so, or are
They're waiting to see what's happening here.
Okay.
Yes, and thank you for the shoe versus the hat conversation.
I was thinking Monopoly,
I
'cause we're all
appreciate that,
talking
thank you.
money.
I appreciate that. Maybe the little dog, too.
I still don't understand the difference, but that's...
Well, yeah, but again, the town is offering to support this for, if by this ordinance, by the draft here, for one of the weekends. So that weekend would be as if it were a community event. The second weekend would be if you would like to have a second tree lighting and a parade, would be at the detail rate. So that would be the only piece, I would think, that York or Kennebunk would want to feel was different. The first weekend is clearly called out here as a special prelude event
I'm gonna go
to
back
fall under a
to listening
similar
mode. We're going back to
handling
listening.
as a non-commercial.
I understand that, John, and what we're saying is that Prelude should not be broken up into two separate weekends. It's a 10-day event. It has been historically, and it should continue to be so historically.
So what I'd like to do is just sort of like let Tina sit down.
Sure.
And then
Get some other
have
voices, yeah.
April, and then we can, I just want to gather as many people that want to talk with us, and then we can flip it over to the board, and Tina's not, no one's going anywhere, and then we can bring people up if we need. Come on up, April. Come on down.
So I'm here to
And you are?
advocate.
And you
Oh,
are?
excuse me, April Dufo.
Pull the mic a little bit closer to you. Good, perfect.
April Dufo.
Yeah.
I'm here to advocate for the lobster trap tree. My family has been putting up the lobster trap tree for over 30 years. And my husband's memorial fund paid for the lobster traps this year, this iteration of the lobster traps. It is, when I first read this, and it's not up there, it only allows for one tree lighting, which means Dock Square, I'm assuming, and not the lobster trap tree. So I'm hoping that I can get you all to add the lobster trap tree, because there is police detail to control traffic and make sure everybody's safe when they're up there caroling. So that, it's going to definitely add to the expense, but I'm hoping that I can get
I'm
you
all
all
for
to.
that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree.
Don't give it a second thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was nervous when I first saw
That's
this.
fair. Well, to me, that really is a community.
That is more of a community
Well, we-
event. I
John,
think there's more
listening
local
mode.
people
Listening
there.
mode, John.
listening. Don't
No,
go
I
there.
agree. I think there's more local people there than at Dock Square, but, so I'm glad that you support that. I also just want to say, if we don't word this ordinance correctly, the costs could increase forever. I mean, the vote, the non-binding vote, vote C, was only up to $35,000. It wasn't any more than that, and I think we need to consider that. I also feel, my personal thought was that the vote C people, and I'm sorry, Tina, because I love you, but I thought that was a very disingenuous campaign, because it said save Prelude. And everybody that I talked to thought that if they didn't vote C, Prelude was going to go away. And that certainly wasn't the case. The other way you can look at this is, if you add the people who voted no, or A, for no funding, and the people who voted for half the funding, which is sort of what you're proposing here, is more than the people who voted for C. So you can manipulate statistics however you want to look at it. It depends on the point of view that you're looking at. I think I'm very supportive of what you're doing. I think it puts what we're going to pay for, it lists what we're going to pay for. Because we don't, the board, you don't have, and the town doesn't have a lot of say in what happens with Prelude. The Business Association runs it, and we pay for police services. So I think that if we specify, like you did, but adding the lobster trap chain there, if we specify what we're going to pay for, then that gives us at least a finite number of resources that we have to come up with and budget for. Where if we pay for everything, like I said, it could go on forever. I don't know where it would end, because the Business Association, I think, is always looking to add events and so forth to Prelude to make it bigger and better all the time. And that means it's going to cost us more all the time. So I'm very supportive of what you're doing, as long as you add the lobster trap tree in there. Thank
Thank you,
you.
April. Anyone else?
I would just like to make a quick comment to that. In April, you know I love you dearly also.
There's a lot of love going.
There's a
Dave,
lot
I
of love.
you.
There's a
Dave,
lot
I
of love in the
you.
room. I don't disagree with what April is saying
About,
in regards to make sure you add the lobster trap tree in there. But
There was a few other points she
there,
made.
she made a lot of very good points.
Okay.
And I do absolutely agree with her that we're not asking to cover everything for both of the weekends. We're asking if you take and you define how Prelude is today, meaning the 4 events that we put in for our mass gathering, those are covered over the 2 weekends. I think that's very fair. We talked with Lori about the whole 35,000, 17,000, and I understand that in an ordinance you can't, and I want to make sure that I may be saying this wrong, but you're not supposed to put total dollar amounts. But then there's a table, a chart that you can put separately, that there's an addendum that will list those costs to address everybody's concern that, you know, the town's going to be spending $100,000. That's not the case here. We're asking for the KBA to continue to provide everything that we've done in the past, to provide all of the decorations, to provide all of the treat, the support, everything that we need to do to make the town beautiful. We need you to help us make the town safe for those 4 events, plus the lobster trap tree. That's where we're going with this. Thank you.
Thanks, Tina. Anyone else? Kate?
Hi, Kate Bauer-Burke, Goose Rocks Beach. There's been a lot said tonight.
a little bit higher.
A little bit higher, okay, better? Not quite Russ, but I am taller, I will admit. Let's see if I- Okay. I guess I'm going to reiterate history here for starters. You know, 40 years ago.
So you just 3
40
minutes, right?
All right, but
Okay.
everybody else has been a little bit. So we've had, you know, this ordinance in effect put in place by voters after they had experience with Prelude, which undoubtedly started as a community event. 40 years ago, they saw the handwriting on the wall. They made very clear that it is a commercial event. And I think that what we're doing now, I would be very careful about stepping away from that, other than in a small amount that the voters have said, yeah, we're willing to support certain portion of that. And in order to do that, you do have to change the ordinance in a way to take a certain portion of that out of being considered a commercial event that cannot be funded by the town. And I think you've done a great job in starting to do that. I think I sent some information to you today. I think I've got some issues with the exact wording of it. Joe, as a lawyer, may be able to understand it even better, but the basic, you need to keep Prelude in the definition of commercial event. Change its name to Christmas Prelude from Winter Prelude. But if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck, and it meets the definition of it perfectly. You can certainly put it back in there, but say, except as provided in such and such 140C-3, where there you're going to go on and say, okay, we will support it, and I would definitely say, please change the language to not include Christmas Prelude events. That provides a window of ambiguity that you could drive a bus through. Take that subsection and defining the item, talking about the items that you want to allow the town to fund, because you're considering some part of it a community event. Don't keep calling it the same thing. Otherwise, it leaves a lot of confusion. Are you talking about the entire Christmas Prelude 10, 12-day event now is suddenly a community event? I think, just from a standpoint, I'm just talking as a lawyer who did a lot of work with drafting regulations and, more importantly, critiquing them, to take a careful look at that so you don't have confusion there. But I do support what you're trying to do in exactly how to do it, whether to define specific events, and I'm all for the lobster trap tree too, because that's where I find all the rest of the community mostly. I appreciate Tina's comments, too, about the process. I think that needs to be looked at, the process of the permitting, because I understand from other people that are concerned that, understandably, the business community has to start the planning for the following year's prelude well in advance and starts marketing it early in the year, from what I understand, long before they then apply for the permit. I think there needs to be more collaboration, as I think you've suggested, that the town and the services it's going to be providing should be included in that. I also propose, as I think as was included in the first draft, that the amount that we're not necessarily, you put out there 17.5, for example, but more, instead of putting that hard and fast number in, at least put in something that says the taxpayer, the voters, as part of the budget process, get to approve the numbers that are going to be the costs that the town are going to cover each year through the town meeting process.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Kate. Anybody else? Anyone online? Dave?
Hands raised.
No hands raised. Anyone else? Last call. Then we're-
Emily, did you want to say anything? I didn't know if you wanted to. You,
Yeah,
okay, all
Robin,
right.
We're-
I mean, I'd love to hear the board
Okay.
Okay,
discussion
all right.
and then.
Robin had her
Robin
hand
had
up.
her hand up.
Robin had her
Sorry.
hand up? Okay.
Robin Phillips, Kennebunkport.
You can lower it a little. You have to stand on your
It's
tippy
good.
toes if you want.
Yeah, okay.
My heels on. I've heard a lot, and to quote a former select board, to ad nauseum, you know who I'm talking about. But what I haven't heard from any business is any recognition that, you know, a lot of people are overwhelmed by Prelude, intimidated by businesses. And when this first came up, you know, they could have resolved this for $200 a piece. And again, I have a problem with ripping the town apart. I don't like it. And I have not heard anything like, oh, what I would have liked to heard after the first meeting was, we didn't realize how much of a burden it can be on many locals. And it is. And it's not like we don't like Christmas. I used to go to Prelude, but you can't get near it. And there's a lot of drunk people. And when those nips were approved by the board a long time ago, they're all over the place. The locals have a name for them, which I won't say, but I just haven't heard anything like $200 a business would have been a wise move. You know, they should have taken the deal, and we wouldn't even be here. We wouldn't have the misinformation, say Prelude. We wouldn't have any of this, and none of us really want to cancel Christmas. That was never an option. So I just think, you know, the businesses should maybe pull back and think about the reason B and A were, you know, they outnumbered C. So obviously there's some problem with Prelude with many people here. And I don't want to put the businesses out of business, but I would like to go downtown at Christmas time. I would like to get my mail. I would like to do some normal things, but, you know, it is. So I appreciate the consideration and that the way you handled getting it was basically a survey for only voters, which, you know, surveys here often, you know, anybody can take them. So that was really smart. So now how it's interpreted is obviously, you know, people don't agree, but I appreciate it, and I would like the businesses to understand nobody ever talked about canceling Prelude, so there was no need to save it. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Anyone else? Anyone online now, Dave? All right. Okay, so before we start the board discussion, I wanted to add in one part that I forgot. At the board meeting last time, we talked about John and I and Lori were going to look at redrafting the mass ordinance language in totality. But then when we sat down, we decided that in order to get to a November ballot and get through the process, that addressing just the prelude section would be good now. And then for the June ballot, we will look at the mass gathering language and which some of the issues that Tina brought up, you know, we can feather into and be aware and bring that into that. So I think that was, appreciate that feedback, because it's the process part of the mass gathering that we want to make sure that we tie up. All right, so I think we all have some thoughts. I will open it up to the board. I'm happy to go first, but I would like to hear from you guys. John, would you like to go first?
I would, thank
Okay.
you. I want to address the interpretation of the ballot measure. I was the one who proposed and very much supported the having three options. And the reason there were three options is this was never intended to be a zero-sum, winner-take-all vote. This was never intended to be a polarity vote. This was always intended to take the temperature of the town in terms of what level they wish to support Prelude. And therefore, we gave consciously three buckets to fall in. And they were going to advise how we would move forward. So I got the sense that maybe some felt that we were being disingenuous and not honoring what the voters had said. Gosh, I totally disagree. I believe when I look at what the voters said, we had ballpark, 700 wanted to support everything, 600 wanted to support nothing, 400 said 50-50. When I look at those numbers, to me, the 50-50 is the only way to look at that. So those are my interpretation. It's not a winner-take-all, zero-sum game. So I just wanted to bring that up. And I was going to address the community versus, but I won't. Commercial, we'll leave that alone. Okay, shoes and hats. I'll leave shoes and hats.
Shoes and hats, thanks. I like that.
Better than shirts
And
skins.
thimbles. I was going to go thimble and dog, but shoes and
Shirts and
hats.
skins?
No, we're not doing shirts and skins.
Okay.
No.
So I'm looking at it a little different way. Is it okay if I go?
Mike,
Yes.
man.
Yeah.
So, when this first came up, I was all in favor of funding both of them. And then all of a sudden, the town manager ends up with a letter saying, oh, by the way, you're breaking your ordinance. So everything went down the tubes. And this came up, A, B, and C. And I'm looking at these, and I've been thinking about this. So, you're looking at A and you're looking at C. Neither one of these are going to change. The people are going to vote the same way they probably voted the first time. But then you have B. And B is that nobody knows, the 411 people, how they're going to vote. And I'm worried that it may not, if we were to do C, it may not pass. And you wouldn't get anything. And I'm in favor of Prelude, 100%. And I'm just worried that if we go that route, that you won't get anything. And that's why I think B is the best option, because I want to make sure Prelude gets the money. And I'm worried that they won't.
Thank you.
That's my philosophy on this.
Dave? Joe?
Joe?
You guys go, I'm, collecting thoughts.
Okay.
So my thought is, I just want to reiterate the point that was made earlier, that there is no intention of this board, and at least to make sure, the permit will be issued. There's no intention to not issue it. So I hope that does, it never wasn't an intention, so I hope that does relieve any issue or concern that some of the KBA members may have had. In speaking to some people, I did hear it, I brought it up. It's not the intention. So we will, I don't want to say we will be issuing it, but we will be issuing a permit. So I just hope that resolves some issues. As far as where I'm at, I am a big supporter of Prelude. And I was not happy when this ordinance was discovered at the last minute. And to John's point, we were kind of up against the wall, and we had to figure out what to do to get a sense. Because where we are right now is the town cannot fund it. I don't agree with that, but it can't right now. So we have, A, B, and C was voted on. I did it, never thought of it myself as whoever goes first past the post is the winner. I look at this that a good majority of the people in the town want and support Prelude, because if you take B and C, that's over 1,000. But there's also close to 1,000 that also said no more than 50%, 0 to 50%. So that's where I'm at. I do want to thank, this board, at least I do, fully appreciate all the work that the businesses in this town do. I understand this is a very important event for you. And if we can make it more successful for the businesses, I am going to work to do that. The volunteers, the work that you do decorating the town, the work that you do, the time out of your own schedules that you do to do all that, everyone in this town deeply appreciates that, and I think that also needs to be said. My thought is to, on this potential ordinance, I understand that we have some legal issues that we need to work out, but the goal here for me is to get it that we have an ability to fund some aspect of Prelude for this season. And that's what we're trying to work on for at least November. There are probably some bigger issues with regarding to what mass gathering means and commercial definitions and all that, because it's hard to get around that if you really read it. I think that is for later. I think the KBA and the town need to truly work together to make sure that we get the best language we can going forward, respecting that there are some people who have concerns about what we're paying for. So that's where I'm coming from. That's where I would like to see it end up. We're not going to adopt it tonight. Obviously, we got a few more weeks that we can continue talking about this. So I just want people to know that Prelude is going to happen this year.
Okay.
And I do hear what other people are saying about Kennebunk and the other things, but I think that can all be worked out too.
Okay, Joe,
My turn?
your turn.
Yeah. I think this is a tough decision, because it's become very visceral and emotional, right, in the town, and it's, and it's hard. I think a couple of months ago when this first started, I think I said, I fully support Prelude. I like Prelude, but I feel uncomfortable writing a check from the taxpayer's account to support, I'll be quick, John, to support an event when I don't have any feedback from the taxpayers. So now we have some feedback from the taxpayers, and the way I look at it, it's sort of, we're going to try to insert a roundish peg in a squarish hole, and so because I don't interpolate the numbers the same way. I mean, we have a strong A and a strong C and then a middle B. I don't know how many of the Bs would have been As. I don't know how many of the Bs would have been Cs. So I'm still wondering how much the taxpayers want to spend on the Prelude, but I think the middle ground is where at least I look at, I'm sort of forced to be. I also think I agree with Alan that because there's been a lot of visceral and a lot of emotional momentum on this issue, that if we put in the whole amount, and it's not that big of an amount dollars-wise, I think that there would be a good chance that it would not pass. And then I think we would be in the position where there would be some endangerment to Prelude, or whatever. So, I think had it all been, if I had a time machine, go back and cut a deal, and maybe the statute would have, nobody knew about the statute, but the statute is here. And with respect to the words of the statute, we're going to rely heavily on the town council, because we have a fine town council, and that's her job. And I am going to go with the mid option here of the 17%.
Okay. So I think from my perspective, so thank you, Board. From my perspective, there was the issue brought up about the cost, and you are right. We won't be putting dollar amounts in ordinances. That's a normal. But we did get a sense, because in the ABC, we did put dollar amounts in because a lot of that gave context to voters, right? So you can argue about the dollar amount in terms of it's not a lot, but it did give context to the voters when they were picking options A, B, or C. So that was good. So again, you know, we did see some things come forward, and, you know, I just want to address some things, is that this is not, it turned out to be this way, but it was not, there is no, what do you mean, malicious intent or, you know, or whatever kind of conspiracy. We truly, to John's point, we wanted to understand the spread in the town. So we do have, in my opinion, we have a strong A, we have a strong C, and we have a moderate B, and we don't know which way the B would swing. I am going to reiterate things that the rest of the board have said. This is what my feeling of gets me, of how I got to where I am, is that right now in 1986 ordinance, we have no ability, no legal ability to fund anything. We are dead zero. So if the board did nothing, if the board said, you know what, I really don't want businesses to be mad at me, I don't want, you know, things to be said about me, you know, I'm just going to do nothing. That's the worst outcome for Prelude. So we didn't just do nothing, we actually did something, right? We took a lot of heat for doing something, but we did what was right, which is to get the temperature of the voters, and we got the spread that we needed to see. Now my interpretation is, what can we do? So the board said, we're going to look and see if the voters want to do something. It's clear from the vote that the voters want us to do something in terms of putting something in front of them to change the ordinance. I strongly feel that if we put C out there, we are actually going to go backwards, and we're going to end up with the 86 ordinance only. And then to Alan's point, we're going to be in the worst case scenario. We've lost the whole election cycle. So I feel that we can get a portion of the A's to B's because they see that there's a strong C, and we can get a portion of the C's to go to B because they see that there's a strong A. So as long as people, in my opinion, take a step back and see that there is another part of the town that is almost as equally as weighted in number that do not agree with you, that are on the 180 degrees opposite, and you can say, I'm going to meet them halfway, then we will get there, and we will fund, you know, part of Prelude. And to me, the discussion around a community event or the mass gathering is really, again, you know, the thimble in the shoe, or whatever we want to call it. It's more about, if we were a town, we would do a tree lighting, and we would probably do a parade, as Lori as we had talked about. And in this case, we'll do 2 tree lightings, Cape Porpoise, and a prelude, or whatever we're going to call it, tree lighting and a parade, because that's what towns do to celebrate. That's the community event. And then the expansion of that is licensed for Prelude, or however it's going to be. And that is an event that, you know, the town resources will be supporting at the expense of the organizer. And I feel that I would hope in this town that we could get that passed. And I think then we have funding, to Alan's point, then we're not in a zero game going forward, and we don't have KBA in a really bad position. And we don't have other towns, to Tina's point, saying, well, they're not going to fund anything. You know, so we get there. And the spread to me did not show, the numbers to me did not show that we had a very strong, to me, the numbers showed that we had a split town. We had exactly, and so I think Russ or somebody said, you know, no offense to us, but we offered it and we're just going back to what we offered. I think part of that is because we've been hearing from this group of people, and we hear daily, weekly, hourly from people about how they feel about things in town. So you're expecting these 5 people with our town manager to understand the pulse. And so we sort of were close to the pulse of the town on this one. And I feel that, to Robin's point, this is where we want to heal this thing quickly. We want A and B to see that there's 2 sections of town that you guys got to start talking and loving each other again, because Tina loves Kate, I think there was some love going on here. So I feel that we've got to get these things back, and I hear what people are saying, but, you know, we are just trying to do something to heal this and to get some funding. So I would like to, if the board has any, we're going to look and add the language in
Right.
for Cape Porpoise tree lighting.
Right?
Is there any other language that you guys see that we have to address with legal?
That's it from my
I mean,
perspective.
when do we have to have this done by, Laurie?
So you need to finalize the language at your first meeting in August. So the question is, do you want to send it for legal review at this point and get that advice by your July meeting, or do you want to wait and mull the language over again and then send it for legal review?
I don't see a reason to delay. I think we ought to add what we spoke of for the Cape Porpoise and send it for legal review.
I'm going to come at it differently. I think that it would be beneficial to put in the Cape Porpoise lobster trap, to get the language cleaned and send it back out so that we can look at it and then we know exactly what we're doing. I know we can't have the dollar amounts in there. I would not encourage dollar amounts to be in there. Maybe there's, but I would like to see a more cleaner version. So I don't see waiting 2 weeks to necessarily have a package to send to Amy is going to upset the apple cart, since we don't have to do it till August.
I agree with you. The only thing is, because of the way we've worded things, we've gotten zero input from Amy. And if she thinks we've attacked it wrongly, you might want to know that.
Could we send it to her in its preliminary form
Yeah.
now, understanding
Yeah.
that there may be more adjustments?
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
then I don't have a problem with
Yeah,
that.
so
I
let's
don't,
get, unless
but I
there's.
don't want to
That's
say
fine.
that, I don't want to say to people that this is a done.
Right,
No.
right, no,
Right,
no.
so
I'm good
we'll,
with
you guys good, Joe?
I'm good with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
So
not going
we'll
to vote on
send-
any statutory language tonight, right?
No.
We're not
No,
gonna do
no.
that.
No, we're gonna,
Okay,
so
well, I'm
what
cool
we're
with
gonna
that.
do is, for the public and board, we are going to add in the Cape Porpoise tree lighting. We are going to submit this draft to Amy to get some initial legal feedback. The board can mull over what you see, and with the acknowledgement that the broader mass gathering discussion will be in the June, so that will be kicked up for the normal process for ballot, or for ordinance review for the June ballot. And then we will relook at this language with Amy's input at our meeting in July. And then if we're good to go, we should be ready to submit for final legal review. And then, you know, hopefully there's no issues.
Is there a way to post whatever our, after legal review, post the draft language on the town website so everybody in the town can have a look at it?
Well, it's posted in the packet.
Okay.
Yeah, it's there.
And everybody has access to the
Yes.
packet?
Yep.
But that's the week before the meeting, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's our
Okay.
process. Yep. All right, so,
Yep, sure.
Just one thing. So is there any opportunity for the board, and I realize the way you can have more than 3 people that meet, all that,
Oh.
but is there a way to be able to have some input and have some further conversation so that KBA can give a little bit of more insight to the final draft wording?
so I think you're free to, like any public member, you're free to submit, you know, just like Kate did, you know, they submitted some things that the board will
Yeah,
consider.
I think the only change you're going to see that I understand is the add in the Cape Porpoise.
Porpoise light.
Everything else should stay the same.
Right, unless.
I didn't hear
I
anything
mean-
that changed my mind tonight.
No, I think what you should feel free to, like Kate sent in some comments and proposed changes. I think KBA can do that, understanding where the board is coming from. And, you know, and if you have questions, you want clarifications on things, I think, or suggestions, that would be appreciated.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I think nothing is,
Thank you very
no,
much.
no deal is done till the deal is done. And
Right.
it's always, I think comments are always welcome.
Right, I think our
There you go.
process.
Thank you.
Our process for this, though, is always, like, when we get things for public, we get things for comments, and if we change things, we reissue whatever was sent to us so that everything is posted open. So there's no, like, backroom deals done. got it.
Perfect, thank you.
Russ Grady.
Here we go. So thank you for that. A lot of good discussion, transparency that has been helpful for me. I'll just share one really quick thing. Like my perspective in what sometimes fuels the skepticism that I feel is that in March, maybe a deal may have been brokered, maybe it wouldn't have. But I asked Lori at at an informational meeting a few weeks ago, why are we voting now? And it was mentioned that a concerned citizen brought forward the ordinance that kind of caught us by surprise. So, in my mind, I now hear the board, working towards some sort of balance in resolution for half funding so that we can keep it going on. We vote. I was frustrated. I thank you for your feedback. Here we are doing the same thing. There's still, I hear from you, and you say that, you hear from a lot of people. It just, we hear from the KBA, and we hear from a few folks that maybe aren't, don't think we should fund it, but I just wish, just personally speaking, and I don't know who these other people are, I just wish it was a little more clear as to where are the other voices coming from? Where were the concerned citizens who raised it, and come speak and have an open discussion as to why we are here and where we're at. That for me would at least have made this a more open discussion where I felt like we have people who disagree on topics. It happens all the time, and I appreciate those discussions happening publicly and with the board. So that's just what kind of fueled some of my
Yeah.
skepticism, and
Yeah.
this is why we're
But
here.
you saw the vote tally. I mean, there were 600 and some that were saying that through their vote. They may not
Was
be
it-
comfortable here talking like, you guys are motivated. You got a dog in the fight, and that's great. Businesses need to be here to support this. Joe Q resident does not wish to come here. Many, Kate, God bless her, a few will come and stand up.
Yeah.
But please, don't make the inference that because people aren't willing to come here and state the case, and that they have less
I'm not
weight or less
I'm not
vote.
inferring that at all, John.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
And I'm here as Russ Grady.
I
I
misunderstood
might
your
own a business,
comment.
but I don't benefit from
I
Prelude.
misunderstood your comment.
I'm just saying that the skepticism close to brokering a deal, and it was only then that the ordinance was brought forward by, as Lori mentioned, by a concerned citizen. And I'm not trying to call anyone out by any stretch whatsoever. It just seems like at these meetings, we're hearing from the KBA, and we're hearing from the select board and a few other people. So that's all. It makes you wonder.
I think I just explained
if-
why.
If this happens, what is next? That's all.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think,
Appearances can be deceiving.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, and inferences can lead to, the ladder of inference is very slippery the faster you leap up it. And there were, I don't know, I mean, I do know because I'm on this board. There were no backroom deals. There was no, this is not the Odessa files, right? It's
Yeah.
the Kennebunkport Selectboard.
No.
So, again, a concerned citizen raised the statute. We didn't know about the statute.
Shame on us.
We researched, shame on us, yeah, especially to a lawyer, right, that didn't know
Right.
about a statute. But there was no ulterior motive, there was no, whatever you're inferring, which I sort of personally resent, but I don't know you, so I'm not holding it against you, but.
I'm just saying, is
Well,
it
but-
possible to understand how some folks might think, gosh, we were so close to maybe brokering a deal until we weren't, and this went into a tailspin?
Well, until somebody came forward with the statute, maybe word got out that there was going to be a deal brokered, and this person did their research and then came forward and says, hey, I
but
don't.
wait, let me step back. There was no deal broke.
No, there wasn't a deal.
There wasn't a deal because
Yes.
we heard back from KBA that
Yeah,
there was no
that
deal.
they didn't want a deal.
We offered something because we were, actually, let me just put things in context. The night that happened, I had a fever, John had a fever, Alan had a fever. You had 3 board members
And
that
I
were
had to
sick
leave.
up here. And Joe
I had
had
a
to
broken
leave.
pipe, and I
We
had
were
to
all
leave.
sick. And we were sitting here just taking on the onslaught. We were just literally trying to survive and get done with the meeting. So I think what you're hearing from the board is that we've been forwarded social media comments. We've seen it. We understand it. We just have our heads down and we're not brokering side deals, and we're just trying to figure out exactly what to do, and we're trying to state our intentions publicly. And you heard 5 members state their intentions publicly of how they interpreted the vote. We listened to people. We understand what people are saying. We understand. We got the calls that said, I won. We got the calls that said, A and B wins. I mean, we've heard it all. We've heard comments that I will not bring forward, that we've talked people off the ledge. And to somebody's comment tonight, we do know, and we are approached by residents that will not come and speak.
Yep.
And they will not come and speak because of what happened in these meetings. And this is what I'm hoping personally as the chair, and my buddy the vice chair, and the rest of this wonderful board, that we bring the civility back to these meetings, and that people can come and state their opinion, but the other side or the person of a different opinion doesn't feel attacked. As a board member, I felt personally attacked. People, grown men sitting in this room, would not get up and speak to the other side because they felt like they would be attacked because they were seeing the board being attacked. That's not how we should operate in this town.
Well,
Completely agree.
So I
And to-
feel that we are getting there, and
Yeah.
if we can get to B and we can put this to bed, I'm thinking, hey, we're on the right
And
track.
I didn't see any of that type of stuff, and I completely disagree with
Well,
that.
well, I want to build on John's comment, because John hit the nail on the head. With the bus issue, the police had to be called because a resident was doxxed on a social media site by the KBA.
Yeah.
Not put up by the KBA, but I believe it was on the KBA website.
3
Okay,
towns,
No.
no.
3 towns, one,
Yep.
okay. They had to call the police. So, I mean, if you're talking about people being intimidated to come out and exercise democracy, that's why.
It's not talking about people who are intimidated or belittling those feelings or dismissing those feelings.
But that's
It
why
just-
they're afraid to come.
But it's as a person who in March only heard the board say, I heard this or I heard that, I heard people don't like it anymore, why do my tax dollars have to go? It just, and then the mystery ordinance comes out of the blue. To me, it made me feel skeptical. And hopefully, saw David a coffee today. Hopefully, maybe we can dig into more ordinances and find out what other surprises are out there, and we can be proactive. But that's all.
No,
I appreciate tonight's conversation. I only read to you a very small paragraph of things that I wanted to share because I'm trying to turn things over and move forward. It's just, there are folks who've been skeptical, and I think I was sharing some of those reasons personally, and that's all.
I would just to your comment, Russ. I didn't. I was one who was not happy about that ordinance coming forward. But I think it goes to the point that as a board members and as we need to, ordinances are out there. Anyone can look at an ordinance. I mean, there's a whole ordinance book, so they're not hidden in dark drawers somewhere. But to your point, I think that this is not the first time an ordinance has popped up since I've been on the board that has kind of caught everyone by surprise, and I think it is something to think of in the future, that we should probably have a group that gets together and starts to go through ordinances. And that is my one concern about this one, and I just want to, I don't want this to be 40 years from now coming back and going, it's only 17,500 that was in the ordinance. I mean, I think we need to be careful of an ordinance. The ordinance should be broad as it can be, and maybe it's regulations and things that then refine it more, but
Yeah.
leave that up to the lawyers. I think we should probably move on to
So,
another
Russ,
subject.
I think, I do want to thank you for coming in and yeah, I just want to say one thing before Russ leaves. I just want to say thank you, Russ, for bringing that forward, because I think this is the way that we move forward when you say the things that you said and tell us how you felt. And then, so this is the dialogue that is good to have out in the open. And we have a lot to do on the
I'll be real
agenda,
quick.
so go ahead.
Because I'm the B.
Pat.
My name's Pat Souza, and I've been a resident here since 2013. I love Prelude.
Pat, you gotta
Into
speak
the
to
mic.
us,
I love
speak in the
Prelude. Well, I
mic.
want them to know. do
I know,
love
No,
but
but
I do
it's
love
us.
it. I love Prelude, but I love everything about this town. I get emotional sometimes. This can be intimidating to stand up here. Because I've been in this room.
Pat.
and I've been the-
you
I've
got-
been the
you gotta
only-
talk into the
I've been
mic.
the only person sometimes sitting here with everybody around me on the other side. It can be intimidating. So a lot of people don't come up here because of that reason, just like my voice right now. So, but I want everybody to know, I think you guys do a great job. I love Prelude. I was a bee. Because I really want to support the businesses also. I know how important it is for them to have Prelude to get through the winter. I want them to be here come the spring, because it's a lovely town. But if I had to do city, I'd say Newport. I would have. Because I also feel for the taxpayers, you know, because some of us can't afford it. I love this town. So that's all. I just want you to know that I think B would have been A. And that was just my thought. And I love everything you guys do.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One comment. I never heard the board address what Tina had said as a possible option, because you chose on this language to not involve KBA in that discussion, a prerogative of yours, but I didn't hear you address, she brought an option forward which said, okay, if you're going to go to B, would you consider, not her language, a lesser rate for the remainder? This is what you were saying semantically, the community versus commercial. And I didn't hear you guys comment on that at all.
A lesser rate?
Well, if you call it, you're saying, Joe, if you call it community, the rate would be, it would be kind of the regular rate versus a.
Commercial, correct.
A detail rate.
A detail rate, yes, yes.
Here's the issue I have with that. I wasn't going to bring it up, but now you bring it up, I'll bring it up. Tell me if this doesn't sound a bit like Prelude. A gathering which are sponsored by local businesses or other groups with the intention of generating profits and/or for the purpose of attracting tourists and others to Kennebunkport for commercial reasons, such as promoting tourism or increasing sales of goods or services available in the town or its environs. What part of that does not sound like Christmas Prelude?
None of it.
Right, that is the definition of a commercial gathering.
But by
It's just,
by your very language here that you all drafted, you use the word community.
So.
You
Whoa,
call
whoa,
it
whoa, whoa,
semantics. I'm a
where-
professor of words.
Okay, wait,
Where did
let
we
me step in here.
Thank
So I'm stepping in,
Where did we call
and
it
what we're
community?
saying is that the draft language that we put forward right now was just for the the two tree lightings and the one parade. And we were discussing in the draft language, I think it's in our draft language.
doesn't call it community.
It does. It says the first weekend of Christmas Prelude shall be deemed a municipal community event, your language.
That
Right,
is
okay.
for the first weekend, and that is because of it's a special carve-out. That's what we're trying to do for you.
And that's
is
why I'm
take that
asking you
commercial
to
environment.
But
consider.
we won't do it
So
for the
I'm going to
second
just
weekend.
step in here because we've made great progress tonight. And I'm
Thank you,
very proud of all the people who came and showed up and discussed and shared their opinions. I think that how the board left it was that they offered that Tina and KBA could supply information that they would look at over the next couple of weeks, while we also had the attorney look at our language to make sure we weren't too off base. So that way, we could come to the July 9th meeting with all that input. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Correct.
All right. If
Thank
we
you.
are ready, I'd just like to congratulate everybody here for a great discussion. And we are now moving on. So do we want to break for?
We want to get Barry done, and then we
okay.
can break.
Okay. So we have another topic. We have many more topics. So this is item 8, to authorize the town manager to sign the Maine Emergency Management Agency grant contract for Ocean Avenue, Wambi Beach Resiliency Project. Mr. Berry.
Good evening.
That work?
Yes.
Good. So I'm Barry Sheff from Woodard and Curran, and have been working closely with Lori and Eric, and I promise to try to make this as brief as possible. I appreciate you moving forward.
And can I just make a couple of
Absolutely.
comments? I'll wait till Joe comes back, but
Oh, not you, not
No,
you, Joe.
different Joe.
Joe, you're allowed to
Different
leave.
Joe,
The
you
other
can
Joe-
go.
The other Joe using the other door.
Barry has a presentation behind you so that you can have any of your questions answered about the project. He has a brief presentation to remind you of how we got here. So you'll remember that we applied for these funds over a year ago. And so at that time, there were many hoops to jump through as we went through these federal measures and support. So back in FY '26, we appropriated the funds for our cost share. So those funds are in place in the reserve account. And back in February, the board, was it February or March?
Might have been March.
Yes.
March.
It was one of those. We went through the project again and talked to the board about the funding to make sure, as we sent our commitment letter in, that we would agree on funding our portion, which the board did vote on that. And we did say that we would commit our portion of the funds. So now where we are is we do have the grant agreement that has been sent to the town. So before I signed off on the grant agreement, I just wanted to make sure that the board was all understanding of what we were agreeing to and answer any final questions on the project.
Thank you.
Okay, and again, I'll try to be brief. I know that you've seen this project before, all of you have seen it. I want to touch on some of the highlights, and as Lori said, we can answer any questions. It's a lot of photos, and the intent of the photos is to help you understand in terms of the cost-benefit work that we did with FEMA to help them understand the project. That's really the intent there, to help shed some light. Pictures do a much nicer job. So again, we've met September of 2023 was when we initiated this project, and it was on the heels of the success of the Pier Road Causeway project, elevating the causeway for flood resiliency purposes. And moving forward, interestingly, in December of 2023, and then January of 2024, we had some bumper storms that you all remember, and I'll show you some pictures. Dave, if you can go to the next slide. So the flood hazards, right, real briefly, these flood hazards, these are not tides, right? So we're going to stay focused on the elevations, but a couple different on the high side is the Lake of the Woods. You can see that's zone AE, elevation 11.3. That's a rainfall flooding area. So that whole area floods based on rainfall. And then you get on to the ocean side. Sandy Cove has that little Y. I like to think of that as that's part of the YMCA. You can see that area. And then the split. Thank you, David. I appreciate your laughter and sense of humor.
I was laughing inside.
Okay, thank you. And then you can see Walker's Point is the high point, and then on the plan right side, you start to see the Wanby Beach area. Go ahead, David. This is just another graphic, help you understand it. The difference really is the flooding is, again, rainfall-based. Go ahead, David, thank you. Beautiful day, September of 2023. We took this picture. And the project goes from, for everybody's benefit, is really right 243 Ocean Ave, which is sort of standing behind us, where if you were to think of it, and then Walker's Point on the right. And you can see the home, 250 Ocean Ave, kind of in the center of the, I wonder if this works, this pointer, but in the center of, right there, that's 250, Walker's Point, Sandy Cove, the driveway there. This road's 2 lanes, obviously. We talked about it has a sidewalk that's in place, the marsh on the north side here, Lake of the Woods, Sandy Cove on this side. Go ahead. And there's. You can do it yourself. Oh, I can? Yeah. All right. Wow. Look at that. This is a great picture. This is interesting. December 18th, Wanby Beach. You can see the Wanby Beach area. Again, just to point it out, this is a water main. There's water infrastructure in here that we want to make sure we're able to protect. Then December 18th happens. December 18th was, there was a storm from about December 17th through the 21st of 2023. It peaked kind of on the 18th. It was a really long duration. This is the basis for the disaster declaration that was made that created the funding opportunity for you to seek funds. Just a quick video. Gives you a sense of what was going on at that time. Then we had the January 13th storm, which came up not too far afterwards, and this is also a video. This is from a police cruiser. You're sitting roughly, I think this is right around 253, right around 253 Ocean Ave, right at the driveway. And I'm gonna.
This is a half hour before high tide, Wanby Beach.
It's Chief Sanford,
It was a dramatic storm. We all remember it. I'm going to keep going. So this is the result. This is the next day, right? The calm after the storm. We walked out there. So you can see the rock that's displaced across the road. What's really difficult to see, and I'll show you some other pictures. So again, this, oh boy, sorry.
Yeah, this one, we took a bus tour around town. So
Yeah. Right, Sandy Cove, all of this stone was displaced from the Wanby Beach parking area. These stones, maybe if you've been out there quite a bit, you can tell that these are pushed towards the edge of pavement. You can't see it, but there's a lot of pavement that's displaced, lost in here. I'm going to show you a close-up of the pavement that was buckled, so you can get a sense. There's some fishing gear in here. That wasn't mine, I promise. And the pavement that was displaced, even in the areas where there still was pavement, it was undermined. I mean, it was a very significant event. These large boulders that are the front, or if you think of it as the bumper of where you would pull your car in on Wanby Beach, were all displaced, pushed towards the pavement, and you can see again the buckling of the pavement. It was significant, and it required the road to be closed. The road was closed from January until about April, after it got repaired, and the town had a considerable expense doing that restoration. This is on the other side. This is our fearless leader walking through. So this is, you can see, this is 250 Ocean Ave. Down in here, this is the low point. This is the driveway to Walker's Point. This is Lake of the Woods back here. You can see the connection. There is no drainage in this area. The low point here has no way to drain out, with the exception of as it recedes, and you can get the drainage back into Lake of the Woods. This is another picture just to give you a sense. The only drainage that is in this area currently is down where, hopefully you can see my clicker. I don't know if the audience on the TV can, but there's one outlet or inlet on this side, and then it runs in this direction. It's a 30-inch corrugated metal pipe. It's pretty well degraded. Not a lot left of it. Over time, it's been damaged by the storms on the Sandy Cove side that swing up. My apologies, Select Board Member Daggett. I don't mean to be putting this in the light pointer in your head.
Stay away from my bald spot.
It's not a site.
I got the same issue.
Displaced here.
We're in good company. This is Sandy Cove. You're looking at 240 Sandy Cove here. And you can see the standing water still in the area. Again, there's no way for this water to drain out. This is, again, just a little bit further back. The outlet of that storm drain, that 30-inch storm drain, is somewhere in here. It's above the tide, but it's buried at this point, and that's one of the challenges that the town Public Works has in maintaining that. This is just another look. You're standing at, so this, you can see the sidewalk. You get the picture. This is all of the stone that's been displaced up from Sandy Cove. This is all town property in here. The sidewalk, I don't have a good picture of it, but the sidewalk was destroyed in this area. This is all town property, and it's been the stone has been displaced up onto the road. So now we get to the design goals, really, and what our approach was with talking with FEMA. Our design goal: address flood resiliency, make infrastructure improvements. Again, we talked about the fact the only storm drain, so just to orient everybody, right, this is Sandy Cove here. This is 240 Ocean Ave, Walker's Point, 250 Ocean Ave, 253 Ocean Ave. You can see these low points here. This low point, 8.82, sits right in this area. That's the area where we saw Lori walking. And then when we get onto this side, it's a little bit higher, but you know, you come down into this low point, then you come up the hill, you sort of crest the hill, crest the hill up in here, and then you go back down to the hill. Again, when we established our early goals, we talked about it: minimizing grading, minimizing disturbance to the abutters, staying within the right-of-way to the extent that we could. Any adverse impacts to existing driveways, we wanted to keep that as minimal as possible. This is the proposed design that we've submitted to FEMA, and they've provided a grant agreement to you. Just to give you a sense, from the water line, this is Sandy Cove here, just to orient everybody. From the water line up, this purplish line that you see, that's mean high water. This blue line, dot blue, that you see, that's the highest annual tide, or the high tide line. It's around elevation 6.7, give or take tide. If you think in terms of tides, it's give or take 11, somewhere in that range. This green dotted line that you see that kind of commingles in here, that is the frontal sand dune that you may remember we talked about. And this brown line is the back sand dune that swings around here. The goal in this area is to elevate the roadway from roughly elevation 8 around here up to elevation, close to elevation 50, or I'm sorry, elevation 9, up to close to elevation 15. There's new drainage infrastructure that's proposed. What you're seeing here, this is a 3-foot deep by 8-foot wide box culvert, concrete box culvert.
Barry, where's Curtis Cove?
Pardon?
Where's, not Curtis, where's Wanby Beach?
Wanby Beach is further down the page on this side. It's
So
it was
this is the wide.
correct. You got it. Yeah, this is the. Well, there we go. So to give you a sense of how they're connected. Sorry. Yeah. So I should probably say that, right? So Sandy Cove, 240, Ocean Ave. This is the Walker's Point driveway, and then up in here is, you'll see it on the next page, is 250 Ocean Ave. So drainage infrastructure, this is the space where we saw Lori walking. We're proposing catch basin, storm drains that discharge into this box culvert. The box culvert with a concrete wing wall, so it'll be more maintainable, easier for the town to maintain in perpetuity. This is the area, again, this is where elevating the roadway near the low point is currently in this location, and here we're elevating that roadway from roughly 11 in that spot to up to about elevation 17. We're maintaining the sidewalk. These are 2 11-foot wide lanes. And then in this area, as part of the process, as part of the permitting process, so you may recall there was because of the frontal dune does not allow us to construct any walls. And then with NRPA, which is the Natural Resource Protection Act, you can't actually have parking. So what we're proposing is a safety shoulder in here that will allow, it's about 140 feet long. It'll allow for roughly 7 cars to be able to pull over and safely get off the road if they need to. This is the timeline. This is laid out in the grant agreement. I want to just touch on this briefly. If the town chooses to accept the grant, we would bid the project, advertise for bidding later this summer, August-ish. You can see this construction bidding August to November to do all of the bidding services. Because of the nature of the permits that we had, much of this work can only be done June through February. We're going to be starting the construction improvements. You may also recall that the soils in that area are not great, and so the intent is to initially construct that road to an interim condition. There's a settlement period that'll allow the road to settle. We expect it to settle. And then we'll come back in, do the water utility improvements and the additional improvements. We expect to close out the project in August of 2030. It's a long time, long period of time. We need 12 months to allow the material to consolidate so that the road doesn't settle after we build it. Does that make sense?
So that's a real long time. Go back to the timeline.
Yeah.
So it's final completion of May of 20230. That's
Yeah.
even longer than
Yeah.
2030.
Hopefully we'll all still be here. Right, we won't start if we proceed, we wouldn't start construction until June of next year. That would be the intent, June of next year. We're trying to.
Would it be done in 2? Like, would you do the Sandy Cove side and then you move over to Wamby, or is this like the whole?
It's pretty consistent bad soils across, and so we'll build the entire area, let it settle. It'll consolidate under its own weight, and then we'll come back in and do the cleanup work.
So I have a question. So we have basically a $2 million.
Are you done?
I got one more slide.
I have a question.
Okay,
But
for me?
No.
Okay.
So looking at the date,
yes,
completion 2023, 30.
2030.
Yeah, we have what, about $2 million grant, is that correct?
It's the total estimated, yes, the total estimated, you stole my thunder. You have a 2.1, you get $2.1 million with a total grant, with the total estimated construction cost, total project cost of 2.9.
Okay, so we're gonna have to come up with about $800,000.
$721,000
So
and change.
all those years from now, from here to then,
Built into the cost.
it's built into the cost, so we're not gonna be paying more as we go along.
No, you should not pay more, right? So it's all built into the cost, right? And we have a contingency built into this, and we estimated and factored in escalation factor. So I'm not building it. You're not asking me to build it, and so I didn't give you a price as I was a builder. But that's part of the competitive bidding process, that we're anticipating the construction cost will be, well, the construction cost, you'll see it, is right around $2.8 million, including contingencies.
So contingencies, 128,000?
We were limited by, the federal requirements limit us to 5% contingency. What we did was they allow you to escalate your costs, though. So that's what we did, is we broke down the entire project to develop the estimate. Then we said, what's the work that we're going to do in year 1, 2027? What's the work that we're going to do in year 2, 2028? What's the work that we're going to do in year 3? So it allows us, the federal government allows us to escalate our costs.
Okay.
So it is built in. So your question is an excellent one. It is built in.
And it is, you still have to go out to bid. So these are estimates, and the bids could come in much higher, which would be a whole other, okay.
Yeah, and
Probably not lower, but much higher.
I'm not a prognosticator, but you know, when oil prices have come down, we saw a spike in oil prices after the invasion and the shutting down the Strait of Hormuz, oil prices, and we have a lot of pavement, we have a lot of trucks moving a lot of material. When oil was $120 a barrel for Brent crude, we saw construction prices that were outrageously high, and now we're back closer to 75, 70, and seems like we're going to be in that $80 range for Brent crude. And Brent crude drives diesel price, it drives all of the material that we have to move.
But when we go out for bid, to Alan and to the rest of the board's point.
Commitment, it will be a commitment for the full project.
Right, and so they're going to come back and commit, given probably the swings that we've been through.
Yeah.
And so the grant money isn't contingent on, so for example, if the bids come back much higher, the grant, they don't come back and say, hey, we'll give you more.
Correct.
So the grant is the grant.
Correct. I haven't talked to MEMA to know whether, if we were to come back and if prices came in higher. I think that was some of the early conversations we had with Christine Whalen at MEMA, but it's a bridge that you don't necessarily cross until you have to cross it.
Yeah, they've made no commitments to us.
Right.
They have a very structured process. And so if they came in over, we'd have to have that conversation with
We'd
them.
have to see. We'd have a decision to make.
It just seems like an awful lot of work to do for the money that it's gonna cost us. It's kinda, it's a lot of money. I mean, it's a lot of work for what money they're at, we're getting, if you know what I mean. It doesn't seem like we're getting enough money that.
You think
to
the
make all
prices are
that.
gonna be higher than that?
Yeah.
Is that, oh, yeah.
We'll have to see. I mean, that'll be part of the bid process.
What was Causeway again?
255?
Yeah.
255 for Causeway? And that included our whole retaining wall and all that?
Yeah.
And Barry, the driveways that we're going into, are we,
What-
are we higher than the neighbors' driveways?
So that would be my question too, is you're going from 8.2 to 15 on the Sandy Cove side and 11 to 17 on the Wamby Beach side.
Are we
We
going to
do-
flood
we do-
anybody?
Well, what is the impact of the driveways?
Yeah.
And Sandy Cove, the people who, Walker's Point and those other driveways, and you get Sandy Cove Road. So, that's a big.
Well, he's showing you right here. Okay.
Yeah, and it's not that, I apologize, it's not that easy to see, but there are impacts to those driveways. So this is the driveway for 240, right? 240 Ocean Ave, this is Sandy Cove, and this is Walker's Point. I know for a fact, because they were out here, we did a site walk. MEMA required us to do a site walk, a pre-construction site walk. They want to make sure that before they even give you the grant the grant offer, that you have done no construction work. And so we were out here last week, and the folks from Walker's Point are aware, they understand the implications. The town will need, and that's really why we've got some time between now and bidding, to allow the conversations to happen with these property owners.
So what exactly, are we can you just give us ballpark what we're doing to their driveways? Is it 2 feet that we're raising?
Oh, it's almost 7.
Yeah, well, so 7 down in here, right? And so this is tapered back, this is about 75 feet. If you know that driveway, you've driven, probably all have driven and walked by it. It's well before the split of, right? This is the split, right? It's kind of in, the guard tower is here, out this way, and so before the split. But we will need to work with those, the town will need to get construction licenses to be able to do that.
But you're going to meet them on grade.
Absolutely.
You're not going to impact. It's not like Head of the Harbor where we're going to create huge things. It'll go and it'll meet them at grade, and when it's done, it's not going to be anything different. It'll just be a little bit higher.
Correct.
To meet, they're all higher than the road eventually. So you're just meeting them on grade, right? Not going to impact them.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that
Yeah, that's fair enough. It's not Head of the Harbor.
The people
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
contacted and they
Well,
know
I
anything
think what
else.
we're doing is we're looking at some of the, Barry laid out the cost for us, and I think like some of the things that we got into at Causeway with neighbors and stuff, we incurred more costs from the town because we had to engage in some legal discussions, and it seems to me that, some of that, we would want to have that cleared
That's fair.
prior,
That's fair.
so that we don't have to then spend money on legal discussions. So we'd want to actually have sign-offs almost.
Those conversations need to happen. We've been discussing that. Absolutely.
Okay.
With the owners,
Pardon?
with the owners.
Yes,
The owners.
the individual, right, thank you. So there needs to be a conversation with the individual owner at 240 Ocean Ave, the owner that uses the Sandy Cove private driveway, the folks certainly at Walker's Point are aware. And then the other driveway, just to give you a sense, there's really no change. So it's really those two driveways. There's no change at 250 at the top of the hill.
Right.
We're going to end up repaving that area because of some of the other improvements. And then 253, as you get further up the hill, it's hard to see the driveway, but not much change at 253 either.
So
So
it's
it's
really
really the two homes, two driveways and then Walker's Point.
Well, Sandy Cove is a private road that's
Yes.
got a couple houses up there, so it's more than one owner.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions for Barry?
When do you think bids would come back?
The timeline that we've laid out is ideally, we would advertise for bidding in August. We would receive bids in September. And then would allow for us to evaluate bids, notice of award in October, and then awarding a construction contract sometime October, November timeframe.
Okay, so what we're discussing tonight is the ability to authorize, so we did get as Barry took us through, we did get the grant money from the board, from MEMA, in the tune of $2 million. We have our match that's been allocated of around $720,000, somewhere around there. So that's been budgeted, that's in our budget, it's in our resiliency fund. So Lori has come back to the board and she's looking for us to authorize her to sign this MEMA grant contract for Ocean Ave. And so what does that mean? So for example, let's do a worst case scenario here. So they come back and somebody comes back and we can't do this project for what you estimated and it comes back $3.5 million.
Sure.
And MEMA comes back and says, thanks, but go pound salt. We gave you $2 million. And so then what's the conversation is, then we would have to look to authorize more money if we still wanted to go forward?
Or find another grant or whatever, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if it came in over bid, which is something Barry and I have talked about over the past couple of years, and tried to work with FEMA to build in those escalators, as we said, because time goes on, and we didn't know when the award would come through. We would have to go back to MEMA. So if you wanted to authorize more money, you would need a town meeting vote, because we don't have additional funds beyond the resiliency funds we have. I mean, you have some contingency money in your budget, but I'm assuming this wouldn't be $10,000 over.
Right.
Yeah. I think part of the thing for me too is I understand the escalation of costs and it's such a long project. So my concern on the cost side is it's such a long project and you have your escalation dollars in there, but we're so used to seeing those contingency numbers at $1 million and it's covered so much of the unknowns that we've run into. So for example, when we go under the road and we start working on that conduit, did we run into a cluster and now there's a great unknowns and we've got work orders that are just going to chew up everything. And so we're sort of you know, we're just used to a much bigger contingency, and we've managed to eat into that contingency in every project that we've done. So I think that that's sort of a concern about the way that we're forced, rightfully so. I mean, it's their process, but it's just a little, you know, we're just not, we don't have that contingency buffer that we're used to.
Can I just respond to that?
Sure, please. Make me feel comfortable.
Typically, we're comfortable going down to a 5% contingency when we put something out to bid. We feel really good about that. Where our concern was, and the reason why we had initially had a higher contingency and they asked us to bring it back, was because of the time that it took to get through the federal process. We submitted for this in February of 2025, was our initial submission to FEMA. And it's a slow, arduous process. And so as in doing that, what we did was we took that contingency and we pulled it into each of the unit items. So if we, let's just say if we were assuming $100 a ton for pavement, and we had a 20% contingency, and they said, you can't carry a 20% contingency, we said, okay, we're gonna carry $115 a ton for the
Okay,
pavement.
so you
and
just
we're-
bought-
So we pulled it into each of the unit
Yeah,
prices with the
right.
intent to try to capture that.
Okay.
But we don't know, and I guess the other thing is, by signing the agreement, does not obligate you to accept a contractor's bid. When you do your advertising and you bid it, you'll receive bids, they're publicly read, we call them rip and read, right? We'll rip the envelopes open, we'll open them up. The town will absolutely reserve the right to, and always reserves the right to reject any and all bids if it's not in the town's interest. So, moving forward with this process does not lock you in to whatever price you get from a contractor.
Right. If it's too much, it's too much.
Right.
Right.
If you don't have the money.
So this is a vote to basically give Laurie the authorization to sign so that you can go out and collect these bids. And we're going to find out what those numbers are. And then we will really have to make a final decision.
Correct.
You would have to award the bid.
Award the bid.
And that would be the bigger question of, do we have the money? If they come in too high, or that's the bigger time.
Okay.
This is, I see this as just giving her the authorization to start this process.
Entertain a motion?
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the town manager to sign the MEMA grant contract for Ocean Avenue Wambi Beach project.
Second.
Discussion.
I have just a couple of things I want to say. You know, in the beginning, I was really excited about this. You know, and all of a sudden, we came back with sand dunes. And I still don't understand that. It's granite, correct? It's not a sand dune. But, so now we're losing all this parking. And my only issue is the parking. We're going to lose parking. We're going to lose 15 cars, 15 parking spots. And I'm just wondering if all of this that we're going to lose and what we're going to gain, I mean, we're going to lose more, I think, than we're going to gain. And I do know, from looking at the pictures and everything else, I'm going to vote for this, but I'm not happy about it because I think it's the wrong kind of thing to do.
Can I just add to Alan's point? I know he's concerned about the parking. You mentioned that there will be a pull-off.
Yeah.
Right. But you also gave
7.
about 7 cars, right?
Yep.
And how much, will it be about the same size as the pull-off that overlooks Walker's Point in terms of its depth?
The existing parking area?
Well, they call it the Gawker's
The new
Point.
one.
They refer to it as Gawker's Point, where people pull off and
Do
they
you know where
kind
they
of get.
park, where they
Yeah.
can park
It's where the
along to
anchor
look
is?
over?
Oh, right.
It's gonna be about that.
Yeah.
About that width?
Yeah.
I'm not positive about that. What I can say is, depending upon how conscientious people are currently, when they park at Wambi Beach, and there's adequate space to pull head in, and a car can pull head in. There's give or take, you can count 17 cars there. Anything more than that, and it's
tight.
wicked tight.
That's tight.
People aren't able to get in and out of their doors. So this, because of the permitting process, we held the bottom of the slope and we had to come in to raise the grade, so that you don't have the same depth from the edge of pavement to the guardrail. So currently, there's probably close to 18 feet from the edge of pavement to the boulders. There will be about half of that. So that's why half of that depth.
So it's actually deeper.
It's actually, it might be, I mean, it might just, to Alan's point, it might be worth just going out to
Again?
that boat by the anchor, where people look at Walker's Point, and just see how long is that, and how deep is that, just because it might actually allow for allows for parking on the Wambi Beach side. You just be doing it parallel, not horizontal, however you do it. You wouldn't be doing it parallel.
And I understand the concern, and I have the same, we tried really hard to push back on the state geologist's determination on the sand dune.
So there's no, so I'm just going to poke at this just because it's important, and I think I'm pretty sure of the answer, but there is no appeal process for that. It is like, this person says this, and this is the way it is.
Well, it is the way, it's a transgressive dune. It's not made of sand, as we pointed out. It's made of gravel and cobbles, but you can clearly see the transgressive edge. It is a transgressive dune. And they call it a sand dune rule, because most transgressive dunes are sand dunes, but this is such a high-energy zone that the dune is actually gravel, and it still moves like sand would move. But it is a transgressive dune. It is categorized. I mean, we went through the whole geology thing with Slavinsky, and it is
Well,
what
we
it
had our
is.
best man on the case, so.
Well, I don't know about that, but we gave it a
And I
shot.
trust your opinion on
Yeah.
that, John.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the most beautiful spots on Ocean Avenue. And you're facing the ocean, and you have, I've counted 15 cars there many, many times.
Yeah.
And we're gonna lose that, and it's never gonna come back, ever.
No.
And I know I'm a little emotional about it, but I also understand what you wanna do, and it's probably the right thing to do. But we're gonna look at some more later on. I will vote.
But it's a loss. There's no doubt there's a loss.
Joe, anything?
Average SUV is 16 feet. So you're not getting a car to nose in with 9 feet.
Right, not nose in, and that's why when I said 7 earlier,
Yep.
it's a
Right.
pull
No,
in
no,
parallel
got it.
kind of space.
But,
So I think.
so you're, you know,
Yep. So I think, this is tough for the board. We had a 3-2 vote the first go-around to get to this point. And I think I would like to say that, the pier was easy because it was a working waterfront area that needed to be fixed, and we were making something better. We were giving. We ended up taking a little bit away from the causeway by no ill intent. It just happened because other people made decisions, not the town. And then we put the head of the harbor on the.
Put it on the shelf.
We put that on the
Hold.
shelf,
hold.
right? We put that on the shelf because it was just too aggressive for residents. And I think for this one, we have had a lot of conversations, within the board about this, and I think Alan's point is very solid. A few of us on the board, probably all of us on the board, believe that this is a critical area for the town. And I think when we're doing these things in the future, what I would like to see a little bit more is we first look at the places that have the issues, and we look at them in terms of what value are the residents getting from this place. And that's almost like we put a critical boundary condition, and we say, we want to protect X. And then what is the art of the possibility around that X? And so unfortunately, this one tripped us up was the dune description, right? Because we were We were happily going along, and we had a great solution, and then the dune hit us, sort of like the ordinance language. But we weren't able to pull back from that and really have, besides trying to put parking someplace else, that wasn't the answer. The answer was supposed to be parking that gave us that view. And we just couldn't get there. And so we couldn't dial it back. We just didn't get to that discussion, and I feel that that's where the unease is on the board. You know, that's why we had a 3-2 vote. But I do believe on this thing, what we want through and the things that we've talked about, that conduit side, that's extremely important. That's wrapped into this project. We can't, as a town, we should not walk away from that conduit side. That's immensely important. I do agree with Alan. I hate to see the cars coming in pointed in. The fact that we do have some kind of pull-off will be great. But we are losing. And when we're going forward with these projects, we really just need to draw that critical thing about what we need to say for our residents and for our town. But, so we have a motion, we have a second. I'll call the vote if there's no more discussion. No more discussion? All in favor? Okay.
Thank you, and if I can just say, I should have said this earlier, the FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant process is a very competitive grant process. And to achieve the benefit cost analysis that you were able to achieve is driven largely by a 5-mile detour and the business impact and the residential impact. That is the economic impact enables you to secure these funds, and a $2.1 million grant for a $2.9 million project is, at least in my experience, for a resiliency project like this, I have not seen a grant of this size and for a project like this.
You don't want to say that publicly out loud, Barry, in case people are listening.
So I guess the comment is good for you all.
Good. Credit to Lori, team, and yourself.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
She worked very hard to get the grant.
Yes,
She did.
Lori
Kudos
does.
to her for that.
Good job.
Okay, are
Thank
we
you.
breaking for our executive session? Okay, so we do have other items that we're going to come back to, but the board's going to break for an executive session now. So we'd like to break for executive session, MRSA 1405-6E, for a consultation with the town attorney to discuss legal rights and duties.
So moved.
So,
All in favor? Check it.
all in favor? Good? We're all? Okay, we're so break. All right, we are back out of executive session, and we're going to continue on with the rest of the agenda for this evening. I'd like to go to item 9. This is to consider the rent abatement due to Cape Porpoise Pier construction delay. At this time, I believe.
I'm going to recuse myself.
I'd like to make a motion. Are you going to leave the room?
Yeah,
All right, he's going to leave the room. Oh, now it's going to get real loud.
I'll second the motion.
We'll wait for Alan Daggett
Oh,
to
yeah.
leave the room.
He goes to the skiff.
It's been a while. One of those. Okay. Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to authorize a one-time rent abatement of $10,000 for A&W LLC doing business as the Cape Pier Chowder House for the 2026 lease year due to the impacts associated with the Cape Porpoise Pier Improvement Project, which reducing the 2026 annual rent from $40,000 to $30,000, and authorize the town manager to execute any documents necessary to implement this action. And let me just say, as I know Mary Beth might have, that this was done because of the impact to the parking, specifically at the pier during this past year.
Yes, and I think, to add to that, we had, this project had gone on much longer than anticipated, and we're actually we impacted one season, and now we're impacting the second season.
Yes.
So that was a motion made. Is there a second?
Joe, second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you. All right,
I'll go fetch him back.
I feel like we're losing the board here.
Yeah.
Someone's doing it.
All right, I'm just going to tee off the item 10 while we get the rest of the board back. Is this to consider the memorandum of understanding with the Teamsters relative to the police wage table adjustment? So we had an executive session back in May where Lori had updated us about the union contracts in Old Orchard Beach and Saco. And we are currently looking to make some hiring replacements in town, so I'll let Lori speak to the rest of it.
Yeah, currently we are down 4 positions and finding replacements has been impossible as the wages have increased in the police unions around us. So Saco and Old Orchard Beach have increased their wages. Some are $8 and $9 an hour more than our current wages. York, Wells, and Kennebunk are currently in negotiations. And although we have 1 year left in our union contract, we would like to make a one-time adjustment to the wages while we negotiate the next contract so that we can retain the officers we have and hopefully recruit some for the openings we have.
Critically important.
So, do you want me to make a motion?
Yes.
I will make a motion to authorize the town manager to sign the memorandum of understanding with the Teamsters to adjust the police wages effective July 1st, 2026.
Second.
Any more discussion?
No, I think we need it.
All in favor? Great, thank you. All right, item 11 is to review the reservation window for commercial bus operations. So Dave, do you want to?
Oh, am I?
Well, you've.
Well, I mean, so
Been driving.
this was a meeting that we had, I don't know, a week or two ago. We've been meeting with two of the bus tour operators just to do a check-in. I think we're going to try and do that over the course of the summer as this rolls out more. We've asked them for some suggestions. One of the things that they requested was that we, right now, they can only make a reservation 30 days before they are to arrive. They have asked that we expand that a little bit to allow them for 60 days before the reservation would go into effect. In talking to them, you start to understand that, for their planning purposes and for the town's planning purposes as we go forward, it's probably going to be beneficial to know who's coming and what times they're coming further out in advance. There are some issues regarding cancellations. We don't want people just grabbing reservations. So that might be a further conversation, but I do think for right now, allowing for 60 days, this also gives us, right now we're kind of in the window where it's not overly busy. I don't know, were you going to share some stats, Laurie, or are we getting too late? We don't want to share the stats.
I have a memo to pass out to you guys with some stats in it, but I figured you were getting late and you did.
Yeah, we're getting late. So I just want, my
make a motion.
recommendation is that we make a motion to move it to 60 days and we can continue to conversations.
Okay, I have a first and second. Any more discussion? All in favor? Okay, all in favor. Thank you, David. Item 12 is to consider the select board liaison appointments. So they're in our packet. I've heard from one board member.
Me, and I'd like to keep what I have.
Yes, I've also heard from one board member of a change.
Yeah, I'd like to please, Joe and I had a discussion, and now that I'm no longer chair, I'd be willing to pick up another assignment, and Joe was gracious enough to allow me to take the Kennebunk River Committee, something that is dear to my heart, so thank you for that, Joe, and so that would add to mine, otherwise I would keep mine as stated.
Okay.
Is Joe picking anything up?
You're gonna have a lot of fun on that river committee.
Yeah.
Okay. No, and I'm fine. I'm fine with party.
Okay, Joe, are you good?
Oh, totally, yeah, okay.
All right, okay, so I will make a motion to change to add John to take over the River Committee from Joe, and all other assignments stay as is.
Except you won't be on CRC.
Oh, except I won't be on CRC,
Correct.
right? And can
But
I-
if Joe wants to pick that up, he could.
Joe,
Yeah, whatever,
the
whatever.
climate resilience.
The climate
Yeah, whatever, I'll take
Okay,
that.
so
right,
he would
good.
like to be
Yeah,
on that with, so him
He's
and
got the
Joe,
trees and the
John will
climate.
be on that. All right, so we will make those two,
It's the climate is.
those two changes are now made. So that's the motion, second?
Second.
All right, any more discussion? All in favor? Everybody's good? That Joe Moan put his hand up?
Yeah, right, I
Yes,
did.
good, awesome. Okay, so item 13, we're considering the treasurer disbursement policy. So this is in accordance with MRSA 30-A 5603. The select board may authorize a disbursement policy on an annual basis to allow for one select board members to authorize the weekly payroll payments. This has been our policy. All our names are on it. This has been the process that we've been using. I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to authorize the treasurer disbursement policy.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Awesome. Okay, item 14, we have some consideration of some sewer abatements. So there's consider an abatement for the sewer service charge of $708.74 for 10 Field Point Road, lot, number 020-001-010, Timothy and Linda O'Neill. And item B of this would be to consider the abatement for sewer service charge of $708.74 for 12 Field Point Road, 020-001-009, Linda D'Angelo, O'Neill, a revocable trust.
I move that we authorize a sewer abatement charge of $708.74 for 10 and 12 Field Point Road.
Second.
All in favor? Awesome. Okay, item 16, any other business, Joe?
Oh, man.
No, thank you.
I'm
Alan?
all set.
David?
None.
None for me. Lori?
The only thing I have is I'll pass out these memos that Hope and Evelyn did on buses, bus data. So I didn't want to go into a long dissertation tonight in case you ask questions I didn't know the answers to, but I thought they came up with some good information. We talked about it in-house with the deputy police chief. And so they refined some of the information to include for you tonight. We'll give a presentation later as we get more data, but I just thought as we talked about reservations, you might be interested in some of this information.
Good.
Thank you for that. This is very helpful.
Yep, very.
And excellent. So I will take a motion to approve the June 25th, 2026 treasure warrant.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Signing.
Sign.
We're done.
All right, thank you, Dave. Thank you
Hey,
all.
I think this is close to a record, isn't it?